Hi, thanks for joining us for Flavourmag. I'm Scott Felstead. We're here in Manchester, very bling, in a 5-star hotel, very apt. My guest here today is very bling. He's one of the most famous men on the planet, one of the biggest, most famous wrestling names that there is. In fact, you only have to Google his initials and he's on page 1 of Google. That's how famous he is. His fans are there outside. He's Mr. 305, half amazing, half man, half incredible, MVP. Thank you for joining us.
The pleasure is all yours.
Great to have you. It is all mine. And you flew in late last night?
No, I started flying last night. Let's see. I left Houston at 1, connected in New Jersey at 5. My flight left there at 7:30 and got me into Manchester at about 7:30 a.m. today.
Wow, so lots of coffee?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, yeah.
We need coffee. And some of you will have heard the backing track coming in there as the interview started. That's actually a track that you produced and had a hand in making. It's your theme tune. It's one of the greatest actual wrestling theme tunes that we've had. I wonder if you could tell us a bit about that track.
The track was, it's called Return of the Ronin.
Yeah.
And it was produced by Mikhail Zebi at the Gold Chamber in Houston. He's got platinum plaques on the wall, amazing producer. And the concept was when I knew that I was coming, once we had finalized the deal for TNA, one of the deals, I said I want to make my own music. They were perfectly okay with that. And many people don't know what a Ronin is. A Ronin is a masterless samurai, a samurai who serves no lord. And I kind of fancy myself as that because I was at WWE and I left on my terms. I went to Japan, I left on my terms. I'm at TNA on my terms. So I kind of feel like in the wrestling world, I'm a wandering samurai with no master, you know? So when I came back to TNA, it was the Return of the Ronin. I'm back. I'm back, everybody. I'm back. You know? And I'm very happy that the song has received. It has been so well received by the fans because I worked hard on it. And it's really cool.
A good track, and the lyrics make sense as well. And I think it's on iTunes, isn't it?
It is
on
iTunes.
We can get a plug in there.
Yeah, it's available on iTunes.
And we'll talk about TNA a little bit more in a moment. And we love hearing that track on TNA. But obviously, a lot of people remember from WWE. That's where you first started out. You first made a name from yourself there. You hadn't been on television an awful lot before going to WWE. Some would say you got to the WWE relatively quickly. No, for in the grand scheme of aspiring wrestlers, sometimes they spend decades trying to get to the WWE. How did you get there, and what was your start? How did all that come about?
Well, I spent about five and a half years on the indie scene. Trying to make my way. Spent about 4 months wrestling down in Puerto Rico for IWA, Savio Vegas promotion at that time. And when I came back to the States after Puerto Rico, I went down to the OVW tryout camp, Ohio Valley Wrestling, which was at that time, again, one of WWE's developmental territories. And that's where I met Dr. Tom Pritchard. And I had developed a relationship with him, and I had never had a dark match before, a tryout. And I called him and said, hey, how does that work? And he said, you've never had a dark match? I said, no, I've never even been back there. He said, no problem, next time they come to Florida, we got you. So it was through that I met John Laurinaitis, and a few times we had conversations about me getting hired. And finally, he said, look, we like you. We just don't have anything for you. So come up with something, a character that you can do that we don't already have, and get back with me. And I felt like, oh, I've just been blown off again. And at the time I used to work down on South Beach doing nightclub security and bodyguard work. And I would see these pompous, self-absorbed, overpaid pro athletes that have never accomplished anything, showing up like the world owes them something. And I thought, wait a minute, this is a relatively new phenomenon. This hasn't been done in pro wrestling. And all you got to do is turn on ESPN, and there's some pro athlete getting in trouble saying something. So there's no shortage of material to come from. And I came up with the concept of MVP, and took the initials and came up with the name Montel Vontavious Porter because it sounded extravagant enough. And I put together a treatment and got back in touch with John Laurinaitis, and they loved it. They gave me an opportunity, and the rest, as they say, is history.
No, that's incredible. And I kind of wonder for you, starting out, did that put further pressure on you? Because a lot of people, they take a little while to get into things and get used to how things work. You're going in saying, on the best. You know, you're putting a big spotlight on yourself. Did you ever think about that at the time?
No, you know, because I was a heel. So every heel says he's the best. He can lose every night, but he's going to come back and say, no, I didn't lose. I'm the best.
Yeah.
So in that regard, there was no pressure. The pressure came with, and I'll never forget the moment when I was in the ring. Vince McMahon, it was one afternoon, he said, okay, here's the deal. I'm going to put you to work with Kane. It's going to be your first feud. And working with Glenn, you'll learn how to work. And if you don't learn, that's exactly what I got. Yeah,
that's the pressure.
So that's the pressure.
Yeah,
like, okay. But Kane, you know, as tough as it might seem, like your first feud is with Kane, he's such a great human being. He was very nurturing and took the time to teach. And because he was one half of the Brothers of Destruction, Mr. Kennedy and I, Ken Anderson, we ended up, you know, becoming a tag team against the Brothers of Destruction, the old my enemy's enemy is my friend type thing. And it was just a PhD level education every night, tagging up against Kane and the Undertaker. So there wasn't the kind of pressure you would think there was beyond, okay, I have to learn how to work. I was in such great hands being taught by legends.
Felt comfortable along the way.
I was comfortable, and quickly, I mean, and the fact that one of my best attributes is my aptitude. I learned very quickly. And it didn't take long before I found my groove, you know, and it was easy.
It certainly didn't take you long, because you were the United States champion twice, you held tag team titles, you know. During that time that you were there, you certainly lived up to MVP. And I think a lot of people would have been surprised 3 or 4 years down the line when you said, like you said, on your terms, I'm going over to Japan now. And I think some people probably thought, why is he doing that? You know, why did that come about?
Well, I had about a year left in my contract, and it just had come to a point with WWE where obviously we weren't on the same page creatively, where at one point I was being groomed to be a world champion, suddenly I found myself kind of sitting on the bench. And, you know, we've seen this happen time and again, and, you know, we won't get into the hows or whys, but I just knew that I wasn't having fun. And, you know, the money was great, and I was still, you know, there, but I always promised myself I'd never be one of the guys showing up just for a check. You want job satisfaction. And for me, WWE was my goal. I mean, everybody wants to work for the biggest and the best company, but Japan was my dream. When I was a young indie guy watching tapes, I wasn't watching WWE tapes, I was watching Japanese wrestling tapes, and all of my favorite wrestling heroes, the majority of them were Japanese or guys who wrestled in Japan. Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Fit Finlay, Regal. All these guys cut their teeth in Japan. And you can see it. You can see the difference in their in-ring ability. And my dream was always to wrestle in the Tokyo Dome. So we got to a point where I just felt it's time to go. And I had a year left on my deal, and I asked if I could be released from my contract so that I could go wrestle in Japan. And kudos to them. They were very open to it. And I said, hey, you know, come back in a year or two.